Hey all, Steve from GuitarNiche here. What we have here is a very early Seagull. I mean, that's an early serial number, and this thing has some issues, which you can see here. Lifted bridge, and I'll show you this. Some belly action here, not the kind we want. There's some serious distortion there. We're going to try to take care of that. And the other thing is, of course, it's kind of filthy, so we're gonna clean it up. I can tell this is old because, for one, the nut is wide, and that generation, that cut and all that, I can tell it's early 90s. I used to work in a store that sold these things, and they came with hang tags that said guaranteed 800-year-old wood on the top. Now, that's also taken a while to wear that spot out. So, you know, this wood is certainly having a time. Anyway, our job is to remove that bridge and flatten out the top as much as we can. Wood has a memory. It doesn't always like to go back to perfect, but we'll do what we can. And speaking of which, okay, here's a piece of paper, sticky with 0.004 inches of thickness. This is a good way to, check how much separation we have. Okay, this base side here is really nasty here. Anyway, so you can see how evident that is. That's got to come off and be reglued. So we have a couple issues that we got to deal with. And plus the action is like just stupid high, you know. Anyway, all this stuff is going to be corrected. Hopefully we don't have to reset the neck. I think some of this will come back, but we'll keep you posted with supplements, videos, all that, and see how things go. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay, so we're looking at taking this bridge off this old Seagull here. So first thing I'm going to do is put on this little cardboard shroud. What this does is I just feel better about keeping excessive heat away from, you know, the guitar and the rest of the top and stuff. And I have some washers here, plate washers, that I'm going to use. What this does is it helps to get the heat into the ears of the bridge. I know it's pretty crude looking, but it does work, you know. And here's my old school heating coil. I have no idea where this was made or whatever, but I know it works. And this is set for a reasonable heat. That's all I can say. I've been using it for so many years. Anyway, this will heat up slow, pardon me, low and slow, just like a good roast. And I'll check this periodically to see how the heat is penetrating into the bridge itself. And then at some point I'll take my custom trimmed palette knife here, which I have specifically ground down and polished the edges here so that they're not prone to scratching or anything like that. And we'll see if we can't get this thing to lift up. Okay, anyway, we'll be back. See ya. Okay, so working on our Seagull here, and 10 minutes later that bridge came off with very little shear. Not too much of issue with run out, which is the problem of dealing with end grain, going with a book matched or a top that's split in two pieces. You have grain that's going this way, and then you have grain that's going this way. So anyway, I've seen that cause some pretty severe issues. Anyway, this this heating pad did just a wonderful job. 10 minutes and boom, came right off. Okay, that might have been part of the problem too, because if it wasn't glued down properly, well, age and time, they have a way of changing things. Anyway, we're gonna clean that up and glue it back down. And first off, but we're gonna try to take that belly out of the top. Anyway, thanks again for watching. See ya. Okay, on to the next step. These are the tools I'm going to use to try to flatten out the top of this Seagull acoustic, vintage actually. Okay, so this is it's just an old paper cup, coffee cup actually, with a couple wads of paper towel, just a few drops of water. You don't want to overdo this by any means, because too much moisture can really cause issues. Okay, and this is a StewMac straight edge bar. Okay, and a couple of clamps. Okay, and of course a little bit of plastic to seal up the sound hole so that the moisture doesn't get out. You can use like a margarine top, a container top, or something like that. Anyway, once I get all this fixed into place, I'll get back and we'll have a look. Okay, so we've got the StewMac bar in place. Very, very little pressure on those clamps, just enough to keep it from wobbling around. I'm not pressing on the top with any great force or anything like that, because I don't want to distort it. And there's our humidifier in there. Okay, so all that moisture is going to be contained within that the shell, that is the body. And we'll let that sit for a day or so and check it. Okay, see what happens. Okay, so it's been a couple days since I put the humidifier in and put this StewMac bar over the top to flatten it out. So I'm going to take this off carefully. And see, there's not a whole lot of pressure on that. Set that aside. And we'll use just a nice straight edge I got here to see what's what. That's peachy this way. And this is straightened out really, really well. The belly it's still there, of course. I don't know really what I can gain from leaving that for another day or so because of memory, but I can work with this. This is this instrument is about 30 years old, so I imagine it's going to be okay for a while yet. Anyway, another thing I wanted to show was this bridge here. The process of taking it off using heat and stuff like that, you get little some of the oil in the wood starts to ooze out and whatnot. This is why you got to be really, really careful with heat and stuff like that. That's why I don't use it on taking frets out, because I think it's just not a fan of overheating the slots and compromising them more. Anyway, we're going to take this off. I'll get back to that after, but I'm going to take this off carefully. This is in pretty good shape here, but I wanted to show you something really interesting here, which is, I don't know if you can see this, but the glue is well back from the edge on the bridge here, on this side especially, which would be over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask all this off, shroud it, protect it, sand this, and get the glue surfaces primed so that there's as much surface area marrying up as possible. Okay, give me one sec. I'm going to take this out, and I'll give you a closer look at what's going on here, just so you have some reference. Okay, so we're going to have a slightly better look at what's going on with the top on this thing where the bridge is seated. You can see really clearly that part of the reason this thing lifted was that gap there. So the glue was never really close to the edge, and you know, that combined with age, contraction, expansion with seasonal changes and stuff didn't help. So, and maybe perhaps the lack of just general maintenance. And on the bottom side here, you can see right there, you can see where the edge of the glue was. So what I'm going to do is I will sand this surface, clean it up, scrape all the glue off, and I'm going to, as I mentioned, I'm going to put a guard around this and clean up all the extra glue here and get it right about a 1/16 or so. I like to get about 1/16 of an inch in from the edge here, because, you know, the more surface area the better, and the end product should be fine. Finally, here's a different view on how this top straightened out. Okay, much better than it was, certainly much better than it was. Okay, and it's actually nice and flat this way, so we shouldn't have too much issue with getting this to sit flush and becoming quite stable and good for a number of years. Okay, so I've got the bridge area taped off here, masked off, and this perimeter here is about 1/16 or 1.5 millimeters in from the outside edge, which will give me just enough cushion to work with and get a lot of surface area for gluing. The bridge here, I've already sanded that down, scraped it, cleaned it off, all the glue. Didn't do any contouring or anything, because it was really quite flat to begin with, which was really convenient. And lastly, some of the tools I'll be using to clean this up. This is just for nibbling into the edges. Okay, nope, this is a super soft cedar top, so you got to be really careful with this. This is sharp. All I'm gonna do is just take out some of this finish here, not going into the wood. I wanna just break out some of this extra finish here, and before I do that, I'm gonna go around with razor blades, X-Acto, whatever's going to feel right. I'm gonna go through the edge of the perimeter here and just score it very lightly to make sure that any chipping doesn't get beyond these perimeter edges. Okay, and I guess once that's all done with, we'll have a look at it and see how things match up. Okay, so I've got the top of the instrument cleaned up here. Now you'll see some discolorations here, leftover marks and stuff, but that's really superficial. As long as the edge here is clean, like not how can I say it? You don't take so much material out that you start leaving a void underneath it. It's got to be just super light, and the cedar is super soft, so you got to be careful with that. And the tools I used here were this little block with 80 grit paper wrapped around it, and there we go. This little piece of box cutter blade. Okay, great for really getting tight into corners, and because of its width here, I can use that really nicely to you know, make sure the surface is flush and clean. Using the right kind of light, you can see where, you know, there might be some shine and stuff where the glue is. I can tell just by looking at it. You know, like there's some slight discoloration here around the edges, but that's from just penetration from you know, the finish and light and stuff like that, you know, for what it's worth. Anyway, we're gonna glue this up, and we'll go through that process, and we'll be right back. Okay, so before we glue this up, I want to do one little thing here. Hopefully I can do this without too much trouble. See that there's a double layer of masking here, and I want to make sure that I'm nice and tight to the edge without damage. In other words, the last thing I want to see is some of that finish coming up with the actual tape. And this looks pretty clean, so this is awesome. Okay, as long as it continues, so always pulling inwards carefully, not ripping, not tearing. Just being very careful here to go reverse through the process. The finish on these instruments is super thin, so you got to be really careful. Okay, slowly, surely, bit by bit. Just 6mm 1/4" painter's tape that I like to use for edges like that. Works great. Of course, you could use like pinstriping tape or whatever, but painter's tape is probably a little more appropriate because we're trying to protect paint. Which way is this? This is okay. So we're going to do this long edge here. Carefully pulling into our work area. Okay. This looks good. No finish coming off, which is awesome. And even though it looks a little ugly around the edges, around these edges here, I'm going to clean that up before I put the bridge back on. Speaking of which, final section here. Okay, that bridge is going to go on, and I'm going to orient it with a couple of my favorite little tools for this sort of job, which is golf tees. These things work like a charm, and they come out, they're easy to get out too. So this has very little slop in it. I can even add a couple more to make sure that it doesn't move around too much. Anyway, that'll be part of the process. At first blush, this looks pretty clean, you know, but I will clean it up a little bit more. Okay, anyway, we'll get back to it in a moment. Well, So it's time to glue this bad boy up. I did a dry run, checked out the internal bracing with my inspection mirror just to make sure everything was going to go smooth and there was no major interference or anything like that. But we've got our system all set up and ready to go. You'll see it as we go through the process. I'll try to make this as quick as possible because gluing a bridge is a tricky process, and glue only gives you so much working time to begin with anyway. Good old-fashioned tight bond, okay? I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that. So what I'm going to do first is get some of that on there. Once you put the glue on, you're more or less committed. You gotta go. You gotta have a good plan. That's why it's a good idea to do your test fit beforehand, because once this glue is on there, you're live. I mean, you're going. Okay. So anyway, I'm spreading that around. I'm gonna spread it around here too. Not too worried about too much or too, well, you want to put on enough so that you get good contact. This looks pretty good to me. Let's scoop a little bit here. You have about 15 minutes working time total or so. Okay, so I'm gonna pop that on there, give it a little shift around. Now in the background here, I've got a bunch of paper towels and a cup of water that I'm going to keep referring to and using to deal with excess. Oops. And just general cleanup and stuff. Hey, I'll explain it as I'm going along. Anyway, and we have some blind holes here. In other words, I'm going to okay, I got to reorient that. Okay. Come on, where are you? Nope, way over here. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to clean this out like so. I know it looks ugly, but if you don't do this beforehand, you're left with a crap ton of leftover glue after the fact that you got to deal with. I mean, you're going to have to deal with it anyway, but you're going to want to deal with this as much as you can beforehand so that your end result is as clean and as it can be. And the clock is ticking, okay? So I haven't really done much other than just get it situated. That's going in the garbage. I'm going to grab another paper towel. Beauty paper towel stuff is that, for one, all your debris goes in the garbage. You don't have to worry about contamination after the fact, okay? So there's that. Now, I'm going to pin this. And I'm going to add a couple extra pins just to make sure that things are oriented properly. Good. So there's very, very little wiggle room there. Okay. And I'm gonna sorry, but I'm gonna be rushing through this process because the quicker this gets done, the more effective the seal is going to be. Okay. So I'm trying to anticipate some squeeze out here. And it's coming. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to put my old school clamps in. Clean some of this up beforehand. Whoopsie. Oh, they're gone. Whatever. Okay. So all I'm doing is just getting that ready. Okay, and then the next one, the next clamp that is going to go on this side. And again, I'm just getting things oriented. Find my lost call here. So I'm going to start at the outer edges here. Okay, just bit by bit, and gradually apply pressure. You don't want to necessarily put everything all the pressure in one spot to begin with, because you can run into problems, as you can see. So I have these cauls have a little chamfer on the end here so that the pressure is spread out a little better. Even though these are rubberized feet, I still like to use a caul just to make sure things are situated properly. Okay, I'm going to remove these center pins. Of course, you know there are different kinds of clamps, etc. But this works for me. Of course, the process is the important part. Okay, so you're going to start seeing that there's some squeeze out. You want to see glue coming out evenly. That means that all your surfaces are glued down properly. Okay, and you'll notice that this caul here is just inside the perimeter of the bridge itself. There's a reason for that, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust these. More importantly, I have some jacks here. They're just wedges, really. They're just wedges that help to take the pressure off, so that the weight of that, whatever, you know, you're using some sort of metal mass to glue here. The clamping system itself is going to have some weight in it, and what I'm trying to do is just compensate for that extra weight. I want these clamps to be as level as possible. If I do this, if I do this right, well, that center one can wait for a bit, because I'm just going to get these outside ones for the time being. Center everything off. Now here's the beauty thing. Okay, I got a damp paper towel here. Okay, and I'm going to take, this is just a regular stick from an art store, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to clean up really quickly all this squeeze out before it dries. So this is the reason why the cauls are a little undersized, so that I can get inside without any trouble. That is, I'm getting tight to the corner without having to dig underneath the caul itself. And clean up some of this excess glue. This will make for, if you do it right, you have virtually little to no cleanup of any, I mean, you'll have some cleanup, but it's not going to be anything of any substance after the fact. Makes for a nice clean job. Anyway. And the trick again is to work quickly. Getting tight into that corner. See, I got a point on that. Don't worry too much about moisture because that will, it's only on the surface, and most of the surfaces here, except for the bridge itself, are coated. Getting tight into that, and whatever's left over I can clean up pretty quick. Okay, so I'll do that. And one last shot at the middle there. That's always the hard part. Anyway, so we're trying to think ahead and make sure that we come out with a clean job. Okay, good, good, good. And a little bit of clean up after the fact. Making sure things are not overly damp. Give everything a good tweak. And now I'm going to put this center block in here. I'm not using fancy schmancy clamps here. That's perfect right there with the extra footings, because these were made by an old, I mean, I'm talking old, an old guitar maker who they were handmade like decades ago, and he gifted them to me, which I really appreciate. Anyway, this looks like it's going to be just fine, and we're going to let this sit for a day and see how it goes. Okay, it should be, I just want to make one little tweak here. It should be just fine, just for the sake of keeping all the pressure properly organized, and that should be fine. Okay, anyway, that's that. My way of doing it, not the only way, works for me, all good. Done it 1,000 times, well, not 1,000, but whatever. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see what the end result is in a day or so. Okay, thanks a bunch. Okay, so our clamps have been on here for actually a couple days. This bridge being reglued and all that. So now I'm going to take it apart and see what the final result is here. Okay, I'll take out these wedges. Okay, so far so good. We'll leave that as is for a sec. Okay. There we go. There's one. Get the caul out of the way. Beauty. And our third one. Super. Okay. So we got our golf pins here. Well, they're a little stuck, but they will come out. There's more than one way to deal with those, so I'm going to do it this way. Easy peasy. See that? Comes in handy. And this is just, you know, a pair of side cutters. It's still being stubborn. Probably some glue left on the bottom of it. But no worries. We'll get that out. Maybe it's a tight bond. Who knows? We'll get it out. You could also use, you know, metal. Like that. I see that there's a little bit of glue. The thing is actually glued in place there from the squeeze out, which is fine because this is all going to be cleaned up anyway. Yeah, it's fine. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I got chewed up a little bit, but it's fine. The key thing is that the actually that's some tight bond that cured up, and the fact that it's actually nice and dry is a good thing. A little bit of residue there. Anyway, this is something I'll clean up after the fact. Squeeze out is normal, but overall what I'm looking for is the end result in terms of you know, final product here. Whether you can see this or not, I'll try to move the camera around in a bit, but it's super clean around the edges, which is the intended result, and it will take virtually nothing to clean that up. Anything left over on the top here as far as impressions or any discoloration will clean right up. Really pretty straightforward job to get that all back in good order. I'll use this reamer to clear out any remaining junk, plus a mirror. I'll have my inspection mirror inside there, and I'll use I'm just cleaning out some preliminary stuff here. I'll use the pins that are supposed to go with this guitar to help clear out the junk appropriately. Okay, I'm just going to clean off some of this surface junk here. There we go. Beauty. Pops right off. Anyway, so you want to be careful that you're not destroying the wood surfaces themselves. You're just getting rid of the glue. And yeah, see that these will pop in quite nicely. They were a little loose to begin with, so Bob's your uncle, as they say. Anyway, next step is to clean up any final residues here, which is like virtually nothing, and carry on with business. I did notice there's a little bit of distortion in the pick guard here from the heat and stuff like that. But considering the end result, it's totally acceptable. It's all good. Okay, this should be just dandy. Okay, I'm going to see if I can give you a little bit better view of this here, and then we're on to the next step, which will be assessing the neck angle and stuff like that. But before I do that, I'm going to check for belly. It's still got a little bit of a belly, but it's like nothing compared to what it was. And I'll show you the actual bridge itself. It's pretty tight. Pretty tight to the surface of that guitar. Okay, so this turned out quite well. Alrighty. Okay. we are good to go. Next step's coming up, which is the neck. Okay. Anyway, thanks for coming up. Oh, by the way, thought I'd give you a quick look at the final product of the bridge. It turned out pretty good after a little dose of Wyman's lemon oil again, which is mineral spirits, but it looks great. Turned out just fine. So at the end of the day, what we've done is replaced the bridge, cleaned up the saddle, reset the saddle height, which was really marginal. Cleaned the fretboard, the frets, etc. I did notice that it was sizzling a little bit more than I like, so I'm going to do a real quick truss rod adjustment on that. It's a little bit too flat, in other words. Anyway, cleaned the headstock, recut the nut. Actually, it was just the first two strings were a little bit off. There's a little bit of wear at the second and third frets, which is, you know, your typical cowboy chord territory, but the rest of the instrument is just fine. I didn't see any real need to dress those out and just leave it as is. Okay, considering the age of the instrument and everything, it just wasn't warranted. So anyway, all things considered, after the adjustment and everything, it's sat for a day or so, acclimatized, and it's been getting used to its new, say, condition of compression and readjustment and all that good stuff, and then we'll see how it sounds. That doesn't suck. That's always a good thing. Thing rings like a bell. Holy cow. It's just amazing. Yeah, the client should be pretty happy with that. Anyway, I'm not gonna noodle around too much. It's not my place to play too much, but it is fun to play and it's fun to listen to. Take my word for it. It's a nice guitar. Thanks for coming out.